So I'll be discussing applied versus pure research, and basically the difference between the two is where pure research is only studying something for basically the researcher's curiosity, whereas applied research has a greater social good and it can be applied to society based off of a question that can be used for both. So an example would be for pure research, it could just be someone being interested in the different sleeping cycles between a child and a teenager. And then you can turn that into applied research by going further and wanting to investigate these differences in order to better help the sleep cycle of a teenager. So then that has a greater social impact because with that you're trying to help society and come to a solution that would benefit more people.
So the next topic we're going to be talking about is understanding your role as the researcher and as the reader of the research. So common misconception that a lot of people have is the idea that your mentor or your teacher already knows more than you do, so you think that the teacher has to teach you about the things that you're researching. But my question is, why would you research it if the teacher already knows, right? So the roles of the student and the teacher are often to be reversed. Whatever the student's researching will often teach the mentor. And I think the mentor there is usually just to guide the student through the scientific method and processes so that the student can accurately come to the conclusion that they need to come to. The big idea that we're trying to get here is that both parties will learn.
The difference between practical questions, conceptual questions. There is a key difference. So here's an example of a practical question. Maybe, I'm a member of Congress and the NRA comes to me and says, hello, Jack, we want you to oppose gun control in Congress. And I'm like, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to look to my constituents and think, can I get away with opposing gun control? You start with a practical problem. The NRA is coming to you and saying, yo, oppose gun control. So can you do that? How many of your constituents oppose gun control? You find out that there aren't many. So you got to ask yourself whether or not you're going to do that. If you're a representative, you're going to survey your constituents, see what they think, and that leads to the conceptual problem. If they disagree fundamentally with the NRA's values, then you cannot afford, as their representative, to take on those values and implement them in Congress. That's your conceptual problem. Conceptually, you have a situation and a consequence, and the consequence of actually going through with it and accepting the NRA's lobbying efforts is going to come with a consequence. You're probably not going to be reelected. So there's your research answer, and you have solved your practical problem. You cannot afford to oppose gun control. So there you go. So I think with a good research question as the practical aspect and the conceptual aspect, and if you have the practical aspect, there's also a concept behind it that you could also explore in a research paper. So I think a good research question probably has both, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think formulating the research question is really important, and at that point, that's when you can decide if you're going to do pure or applied research based off the question you're asking and the impact it could potentially have. And if at one point you find that this is something that you want to carry on further and have it have a greater meaning, you could turn it into an applied research question from the original pure research. So it can go both ways.
Yeah, and I think all of that is really important in terms of how we're going to use these research topics in the real world, and how they can be most applicable to other researchers who weren't probably part of the project but are probably going to read what you wrote. And your work's going to be shown to other scholars, and then they're going to create more research out of your research. It's a cycle of scholarly work.
It's cyclical, like life itself.
Yes, the craft of research.